I am 29 years old, and I have been with my partner for 12 years now. Since we have been together, his mother has made it clear that she hates me. I never understood the reason, but I think it is out of jealousy, given that before me, he was a mommy's boy. My partner proposed to me when we discovered that I was 3 months pregnant, and I said yes. I was very excited and quickly began the preparations. I hired a wedding planner, and from there, everything went wrong. My mother-in-law told everyone that I was a bad woman for not taking care of my own wedding, and that I was tying up her son with a pregnancy. She said I was lazy and selfish. We both paid for the wedding. Since we have been together for so long, we have a shared savings account, and we have been able to save a lot. We always said that if we ever separated, we would split the account in half. Now that we were going to get married and have a baby, we used it for planning, but my mother-in-law says that the tradition is that the bride's father pays for the wedding. And since I don't have a father, she thinks I should take care of the expenses. My fiance told her that was stupid and to stay out of our finances. He wasn't asking her for money. Even though my boyfriend threatened not to invite her to the wedding, my mother-in-law continued making comments like that. Everything collapsed when I tried some things from the banquet and realized that they had nuts and other things to which I am allergic. Although I did report my allergies to the coordinator, I ended up in the emergency room. Luckily, nothing happened to my baby. Although if he was in danger, it was when my boyfriend asked the organizer for an explanation. It turns out that she and I communicated by email, and he never received my list of what we were allergic to. My husband's email arrived, but mine said no allergies. My husband has the emails registered on his mother's computer, since it was our old computer. My partner didn't think twice and immediately accused her of it. He also told her that he no longer wanted to have contact with her. For my part, I began to rethink my entire situation. He has already recanted and brought his mother back into our lives again, so I can't trust his word. And I really don't plan to risk it again, and even less so with my baby. She didn't care that she could have caused harm to her grandson. I love him with all my heart, but right now I have more love for my son and also fear of his mother. Little by little, I started canceling things. And when it came time to return certain deposits, I put them in the savings account. My partner did not realize this fact until he went to the place where we had ordered the cake to make sure of the ingredients. He found out about my cancellation after asking me why I canceled through a call. So I asked him to meet up. I told him that I no longer felt safe about getting married. I loved him, but I didn't feel safe that the two of us, me and my baby, would be close to his family. I told him that I wouldn't marry him, but he would still be part of our baby's life. He told me that he was willing to stay away from everyone for both of us, but I can't believe him. He had already said it before, and a few months later we were back to the same thing. I remained firm with my decision and gave him the ring. I also showed him everything I could return to the shared account. I told him that what they would not refund, I only deducted from my part. And I already divided our money and took out my part. It's been a week, and I'm devastated. He is too. Our mutual friends have told me. Some say I did well, and others say I was miserable. I only look out for the health and well-being of my baby and myself. His mother started spreading the rumor that it was my ex who broke up with me when she discovered that my son was not hers. I have received comments calling me an intimacy lover and a prostitute. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Send your fiancé everything his mother sends you. You will be creating a file anyway, so send him a copy of it all. Police report, messages, restraining orders, all the messages from others calling you names. CC'd to him and plan to move. Comment 2. You should file a police report. At this point, I would not be putting him on the birth certificate. He can go through the courts to prove it's his, and you can tell the judge his mom intentionally harmed you and do not want her near your child. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic week, and I've got a lot to update you on. After I gave back the ring and split our savings, things went from bad to worse. My partner, who I've been with for over a decade, was completely shattered. I thought I knew heartbreak, but seeing the pain in his eyes as I stood my ground was a whole new level of agony. It was like watching the man I love crumble right in front of me. Our history is long and complicated. We met in high school, and he was my first everything. We've been through so much together, from prom to college and then starting our careers. We were that couple everyone thought would make it through anything. But his mom, she's always been this dark cloud hovering over us. I remember the first time I met her, she gave me this cold look that sent shivers down my spine. I never imagined it would lead to this. The rumors his mother started about my ex and the paternity of my baby spread like wildfire. It was humiliating. I've been getting nasty looks and whispers from people I've known for years. I've never felt so alone. My partner tried to defend me, posting on social media about how the rumors were lies and how much he loves me and our unborn child. But the damage was done. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense, my partner showed up at my door, eyes red from crying. He begged me to reconsider, to understand that he was willing to cut ties with his mother for good. He said he'd do anything to keep our family together. But trust, once broken, isn't easily mended. I couldn't shake the fear that his mother would somehow find a way back into our lives and wreak havoc. In the midst of all this, I found out that my partner had been secretly planning a surprise honeymoon for us. He'd been squirreling away money for months, wanting to give me the trip of a lifetime. It was supposed to be a surprise for after the wedding. He showed me the brochures, the reservations, his face full of hope and desperation. It was a gut-wrenching moment, realizing what we were losing. Our friends have been caught in the middle of this mess. Some are on my side, saying I need to protect myself and my baby. Others think I'm being too harsh, that I should give my partner another chance. But they don't understand the fear that grips me every time I think of his mother. Just a couple of days ago, I ran into one of my partner's aunts at the grocery store. She cornered me by the frozen foods, hissing that I was tearing the family apart. She said that my partner was a shell of himself, that I was being selfish. I left my cart right there in the aisle and walked out, tears streaming down my face. The confrontation with his aunt was the last straw. I decided to move in with a friend for a while to get away from the toxic environment. My partner doesn't know where I am, and I've asked my friend to keep it that way. I need space to think, to breathe. Yesterday, I heard from a mutual friend that my partner had a blowout with his mother. He told her that she was the reason he was losing his family, that she had gone too far. But even that knowledge doesn't bring me any comfort. The trust is broken, and I don't know if it can ever be repaired. My daughter's bullying spiraled out of control, so I sent her to Alaska to learn respect. But her tears and silence made me doubt my tough love. As a father, the relationship between my 17-year-old son and 15-year-old daughter has been a constant concern between me and my wife. We watched her consistently be mean and rude towards her brother and get constant reports of her bullying classmates at school. The tipping point was her involvement in a physical fight at school, leading to her suspension. She had been bullying this girl for weeks and decided to fight her simply because she found her annoying and aggravating. My wife and I were pissed, to say the least, so we decided to ground her and take away her phone and all of her electronics away. She told us that she could care less about her phone, and it's funny, we think she does. I decided that since she didn't care, the best punishment I could come up with would be to send her away to stay with my parents in Alaska, with the possibility of returning home after she had learned her lesson. She begged and cried for me not to send her away. I told her that this was for her own good. She ran to her brother to try and get him to convince me to not send her away. He told me not to send his sister away, and he thinks that me threatening her was enough to scare her. Which, if I'm being honest, shocked me because of how much she constantly talks bad about him and how much she complains to us about her behavior. I told him I appreciate his input, but my decision was final. After I got the tickets, I accompanied her to Alaska, where she was silent the entire way, which kind of made me regret my decision, but I felt like she wouldn't take any other punishment as seriously. When we arrived at my parents' house, I spoke with my parents more about the decision, and they told me that they understand and will put some sense into her. I went to the school she will be attending to transfer her. She will be starting there Tuesday. I told her I loved her and hope she understands why I'm doing this. She told me that she hates me and never wants to see me again. She also said that she hopes I die on the way home. This honestly made me cry, so I just walked out. This happened last Sunday. It is now Friday, and my parents are telling me that my daughter remains silent, cries during the night, and refuses to engage in any conversation. This made me rethink my decision, and I'm starting to hope to get my daughter back. My wife says I should let her stay because she says my parents are way stricter than we are, and she'll learn how good she had it. I'm honestly feeling conflicted, and I don't want my daughter to hate me. Am I the idiot for sending my daughter to stay with my parents for her behavior? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Put her in therapy over Zoom. Something else is going on here that she's not telling anyone. Sending her to your parents wasn't a bad idea considering her behavior. Getting her out of the environment where she feels comfortable being violent is a good thing, but I don't think it's enough. And you call your parents strict, but give no indication that they might be able to get her to open up, or even if they are inclined to do so. The right therapist can make a huge impact on anyone's life. If she's falling into a depression, having someone outside of her situation to talk to should help a lot. Comment 2. She needs therapy along with tough love for this to be successful. There's a reason she's acting out, and it may be beyond just being a teenage brat. You need a professional to help you navigate this without alienating your daughter. Family therapy is always indicated when behavior has devolved to where you cannot manage it without removing the child. This can be done over Zoom, so you can all participate as the counselor indicates what is helpful and appropriate. Your daughter is acting out. Your son lost his sister. You all need a pro to successfully navigate this. Now for the update. Hey Reddit! It's been a week since I last posted about sending my daughter to stay with my grandparents in Alaska after her suspension from school for fighting and bullying. I've got an update for you all, and let me tell you, it's been quite the eventful week. First off, let me fill you in on some history that I didn't mention before. My daughter has always been fiercely independent, even as a little girl. She'd insist on picking out her own clothes, doing things her way, and she's always had a bit of a temper. My wife and I thought it was just a phase, but as she grew older, it became clear that she was struggling with some deeper issues. We tried talking to her, getting her into counseling, but nothing seemed to work. Her relationship with her brother has been rocky, to say the least. He's the quiet, studious type, and she's always seen him as the golden child, which only fueled her resentment. Now, back to the present. After I left Alaska, my parents kept me updated on how she was doing. They said she was still giving them the silent treatment and spending a lot of time alone in her room. But then, something unexpected happened. My son called me up, out of the blue, and asked if we could talk. He was worried about his sister and felt guilty that he hadn't done more to help her before things got so bad. He admitted that he'd been ignoring her mean comments because he didn't want to start a fight, but now he realized that maybe he should have tried to reach out to her. Meanwhile, my parents had enrolled her in the local school, and on her first day, she actually made a friend. A girl from her class reached out to her, and they hit it off. My parents said it was the first time they'd seen her smile since she arrived. It turns out this girl had also been through some tough times, and they bonded over their shared experiences. But the real jaw-dropping moment came when my daughter called me. I was bracing myself for more anger, but instead, she was crying and apologizing. She said she missed us and realized how much she'd hurt everyone with her actions. She told me about her new friend and how talking to someone who understood made her see things differently. She even asked about her brother, which was a huge surprise. Back home, my wife and I had a long talk about everything. We both agreed that we missed our daughter terribly and that maybe this separation had been a wake-up call for all of us. We decided that if she continued to show improvement, we'd bring her home sooner rather than later. The next day, my parents called with more news. My daughter had volunteered to help with a community project through her school. They were cleaning up a local park, and she was actually taking the lead on organizing some of the activities. My parents were stunned. They said it was like she was a different person, taking responsibility and showing initiative. As for her brother, he's been writing her letters. He told her he's proud of the changes she's making and that he's always here for her. It seems like this whole ordeal might actually be bringing them closer together. My wife and I have been discussing how we'll handle things when she comes back. We're planning on setting some new ground rules, but also making sure we're more involved in her life, listening to her, and supporting her. We want to encourage the positive changes she's making and help her keep moving in the right direction. My wife gave away my stuff without asking, so I confronted her and she stormed out. Now she wants counseling, but can we really fix this? I, a 26-year-old male, have been married to my wife Emma for 4 years. She was a social work major who I met in one of my general education classes. I explained to her I was a mechanical engineering major. She then asked if I could tutor her in math, and that's how we began dating. Afterwards, I decided to get my master's in Japanese to help me gain more career opportunities. My wife thought it was a silly idea and said she wouldn't be funding it, so then we decided to keep our finances separate. It wasn't a big deal since I was still working anyways. I just had less free time. So she was making more than me during this time. It paid off, and I recently landed a high-paying job, and with that came more stress due to me having to travel to Japan often. I've really been wanting to get into gaming, so I invested in computer parts costing around $1,500. Once I took the parts out of the box, my wife noticed the receipt and asked how I could be so irresponsible with my money. She assumed I still made the same amount, but when I told her that I make triple that amount, she began giving me the silent treatment. During this time, I began to notice my things were going missing. I wanted to go fishing with some friends one time, and when I was looking for my rods, she must have noticed and said she had given them to her uncle. I told her not to take my stuff without asking, but didn't mind too much because they were old. So I just bought some more. Another time, I was about to go to the gym and I was looking for my pre-workout. I always keep 3 jars. I luckily had a can of Monster, and that helped. I asked my wife when she got home from work, and she said she gave them to her cousin. I asked her to reimburse me because they cost $50 a jar. She said, I make enough to replace them, and just ignored me for the rest of the day. One day, when she thought I was asleep, she was talking to someone on the phone, explaining how she's going to move my parents into our house. She hadn't explained this to me. We only have 3 rooms. One is her office, one is my office/game room, and the other is our bedroom. She told the person on the phone, who I assume is her sister, that she's going to give my gaming setup to her brother to make room and that I'll get over it eventually. So today, I left work early to catch her in the middle of her plans. And when I walked into our apartment, she and her brother were then placing everything into a box. I asked what was going on, and my wife, whose face was pale, said she was cleaning when her brother came by. I asked him if he planned on taking my computer. Of course, he denied. So I went into the room to get the iPad we share, and I looked through the texts on there, and it clearly shows my wife telling him when to pick it up and to deny that he had it. I told him to get out and asked her, why does she think she's so entitled to my stuff? I have never yelled at her, and I guess this scared her because she began to cry. She ended up packing a bag and went to stay with her sister. While she was out, I picked up a lock for my office. Her sister texted me, calling me a jerk. I am beginning to think I could have handled this better. I'm looking for advice. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, but go consult a top lawyer and serve her divorce papers. Do not go cheap on this. A good lawyer could save $200,000 in alimony. She probably doesn't have enough money to pay a good one anyways. Go big and be happy that you don't have kids. Comment 2, not the idiot, but this is bigger than a computer. Your wife is manipulating things and being selfish. Sounds like she is resentful as well. If you want to save the marriage, insist on counseling. Otherwise, you know what to do. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic 3 days since I last updated you all, and a lot has happened. So after my wife Emma left to stay with her sister, I spent the night alone, trying to process everything. I couldn't believe she'd been giving away my stuff and planning to move my parents in without even talking to me. I was hurt, but also angry. I installed the lock on my office door the next morning, just to feel some sense of security. The next day, I got a call from Emma. She was sobbing, saying she missed me and wanted to talk. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near our place. When I saw her, she looked exhausted. She apologized for taking my things and for not communicating about my parents. She explained that she felt overwhelmed by the changes in our finances and my frequent trips to Japan. She said she felt left out and started acting out in the only way she thought would get my attention. I listened, trying to understand her perspective. I remembered how she had supported me when I was getting my master's in Japanese, even though she thought it was a silly idea. She had been there for me, and I realized I hadn't been as supportive of her lately. We talked for hours, and I told her about my new job's stress and how I felt like she didn't appreciate the hard work I was putting in. Emma admitted she had no idea how much pressure I was under and promised to be more considerate. But just when I thought we were making progress, Emma's phone buzzed. It was a text from her brother asking if he could still have my gaming setup. I saw red. I couldn't believe she hadn't told him the deal was off. We had another heated argument right there in the coffee shop. People were staring, and Emma's face turned bright red with embarrassment. She quickly texted her brother, telling him no, and turned her phone off. She looked at me, tears in her eyes, and said she'd do anything to make things right. I told her we needed to set some boundaries and have better communication if we were going to make this work. When we got home, Emma called her uncle and cousin to return my fishing rods and pre-workout. They were surprised, but agreed to bring them back. It felt like a small victory, and I appreciated her effort. The next day, Emma suggested couples counseling. I was hesitant at first, but I knew we needed help if we were going to get past this. We found a local therapist and booked our first session for the following week. Things were starting to look up, but then I got a text from Emma's sister, the same one who called me a jerk. She wanted to meet and talk. I agreed, curious about what she had to say. We met at a park, and she immediately apologized for the text. She said she only heard Emma's side of the story and didn't realize how much her sister had overstepped. She also admitted that she had been encouraging Emma to be more independent, but she didn't expect her to start giving away my belongings. I was shocked. I had no idea Emma's sister had such an influence on her actions. But it also made me see how important family was to Emma, and how her actions, however misguided, were an attempt to feel more in control of our life together. Emma's sister and I ended the conversation on good terms, and she promised to support us in fixing our marriage. It was a surprising turn of events, but I was grateful for her honesty. When I got home, Emma had made dinner, something she hadn't done in a long time. We ate together, talking about our day and the steps we were going to take to rebuild our relationship. It felt like we were finally on the same page. So here we are, 3 days later. Emma and I are slowly working through our issues. She's been more open about her feelings, and I've been trying to include her in my life, even with the stress of my job. We're both learning to compromise and communicate better. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.